There was a lot of people back home saying, do you really think it's a good idea to go racing across the US when Interpol and the British police are investigating you right now for racing across the UK? So in June 2018, there was a lot of press in all the newspapers, radio, and magazines about an alleged drive from John O'Groats to Land's End that was being claimed the fastest time ever between the 2 points. Now, the history between those 2 points, you can't say one without the other. Now, the time being sort of published everywhere was 9 hours and 36 minutes. It's 841 miles, and I would say 300 to 400 miles of that is non-highway, not on the motorway. So we're talking very mountainous Scottish 2-lane roads and very, very sandy 2-lane roads through the villages of Cornwall and stuff down south. The sort of aftermath of all the sort of press publicity was, a lot of friend requests off nutty people, and basically 2 things. One was the police raided my home and took my car, and I was invited to the 2018 C2C. However, when I was arrested, it was sort of like so fresh. I didn't want anything to do with cars at the moment in time. It was sort of like, I was in such a dark cloud. It was like the last thing I want to be doing is going, across the country and cars and everything like that. It was like I was done with it all. It was like I was in a real dark place about it. But as time went on, we get into 2019 and I'm still sort of pending, and it's still pending, and sort of learn how to sort of deal with it and park it to one side. And then, you start chatting to people and it's like, look, I'm going to regret this if I don't do it more than I regret it if I do it. There was a lot of people back home saying, do you really think it's a good idea to go racing across the US when Interpol and the British police are investigating you right now for racing across the UK? And I could see the logic in it, but it was very much like, I don't want to hear that sort of negativity. So in 2019, we did do the C2C Express, and it turned out to be one of the greatest experiences ever. I thought, we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. So the 40th anniversary, there was Triple T, which was a Ford Transit, British right-hand drive. There was a Interceptor, Jensen Interceptor on British plates, and there was a Rolls Royce. And I've always been fascinated with these guys who bought a car over to do the cannonball. I thought, if I'm going to do it, we're going to fly the flag of the Union Jack, and we're going to be an all-British team, and we're going to find the most British car we can, and we're going to bring it over. So we ended up buying a 1974 Series 2 Jag. When we told people that, they were like, you do know how far it is from Darien, Connecticut to LA, right? We're like, yeah, don't have faith. So we bought this car in Edinburgh, right near the castle. Fantastic car, just needed a new headliner, and we were just going to upgrade the cooling system. So we did that over the summer, and then we put it on the boat in Liverpool and shipped it over to JFK. Now, I was really kind of concerned that I'd be allowed into the States. Although I hadn't been charged with anything, I was pending, investigation. I was under investigation. So there was this massive anxiety of one, being charged before we go, or just landing in JFK and the TSA just being like, they phoned ahead and you're not allowed in for these reasons. So until we got through customs, and we actually came to the customs officer, Rodriguez his name was, and he's like, what's the purpose of your trip? And it's this sort of thing like, I'd rather just be really honest with you rather than just be like, oh, just a holiday. So I'm like, well, we've shipped a car over from the UK. And this is where we kind of play on the royal family a little bit. Used to belong to Prince Charles. Prince Charles at the time was like, oh. And we're racing it across. I don't think I used the word race. We're driving it across country, and we're going to raise money for fallen police officers. It's a really good charity. And he's looking up the car while I'm telling him. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, okay. And he grabs the stamp and he stamps it. I'm like, I'm in, right? I'm in now, so that's good. If I'm charged while I'm in, well, they'll have to find me before they send me back home. So we're good. So we're coming through now, and it's like the last hurdle is getting the car from the dock. It's the first time I've shipped a car, across the world. It's an old car. You're thinking, what if it didn't start on the boat? What if, all the oil's just fallen out of it? What's going on? We get to the docks, and it's pretty straightforward. It's one piece of paper. We had to wait a while because they went on lunch half an hour before they said they would. So we were waiting for about 2 hours in Newark. And stamp, get the car out, pull it up, and there we are. We're in this right-hand drive Jag on the side of the docks in New York. The feeling was just surreal to have this car and just like this ribbon of tarmac that just links over this whole continent. We head off and we've got a big sort of party at Alex Roy's that night, and he's showing his Apex film. So we're driving into New York and everything's amazing, and we meet all these people who we've all heard about, but this is my first time meeting these guys, and it's all a bit surreal. And being in Alex Roy's sort of apartment there where he planned his run and everything was just like very surreal moment for me, really. We head back downstairs. Everyone's got on this coach to go back to this hotel. We jump in the Jag, and it's all very jolly and British. I thought, let's go to Times Square, right? We've got to go to Times Square. It's dark. It'd be amazing. Pulling along, and everyone's waving at us, and they're like, oh, the steering wheel's on the wrong side. And we're like, well, it's the right side in every sense of the word. We're in Times Square, and the car just sort of starts to shudder, and the lights all start going weird, and we're like, oh no, not now, there's nowhere to start, and it just conks out in Times Square, right? Now I'm trying to bluff it off like, no, we've meant to stop here. We've run out of electricity is what I've found the problem is, and we'd put these big rally lamps on the front, and obviously they must have been drawing too much. Everyone's now sort of coming around the car, and there's some weird people in America, and they're really sort of having a go at our electrical system, going, oh, the electrical system's rubbish in this car, and we're like, we just don't want this bad omen on the car. So I had this little jumper pack, jumped it, started it back up, thought, let's just keep the lights off. So we kept the lights off, it's all fine, and we go back through the tunnel, back to where we were staying in Brooklyn down there, and put the lights back on, and it's all fine. We're like, oh, it's just a moment, right? It's fine. Not worrying that we've got 2,900 miles to do the next day. Not a problem, we forget about it, we're still on a bit of a high, and then the next morning it's right, we're heading up to Darien now, and it's the sort of day of, and we're like, right, okay. Through Connecticut, we get pulled over by Port Chester police. My first interaction with US law enforcement, and he pulls us over, and bearing in mind we're on historic British number plates, the steering wheel's on the wrong side, we clearly look foreign and British and jolly, and we're all smiling and happy. And he pulls us over, and he walks up to the wrong side of the car, then comes round to our side, and he's like, is this thing registered? And I'm like, yeah, we've shipped it over from Liverpool, and I'm really sort of, but I'm keeping my hands on the steering wheel because I don't want to get shot, and we're over-indexing this sort of like, oh, American police. And I said, I've got a folder here with all the documents in. Can I show you? And I'm going to reach it like this, and he just looks, and he goes, and bear in mind, there's not a sound from his radio. He goes, I've got another call. And he just gets into his car, doesn't say we can go, just gets back, and we're looking in the mirror like this, so like really rigid and like in this really hot Jag, and he just gets in his car and drives off, and I'm like, well, he's not said we can go, like, but he's gone. And we're like, we might be onto something here. The hassle of dealing with 3 foreigners in a foreign car with foreign sort of plates and international driver's permits, this could be something that works in our favour. So we drive on a little bit further, and the next thing it's broken down again. And we're like, oh no. So this is like Friday afternoon, and we're looking everywhere for a 1974 alternator for our Jag, which is obviously we're struggling to find one. We pull up to this guy, old school dude, just deals with alternators, and he's like, I had one for 3 years on my shelf. He says, I sold it last week. And he's like, to who? Like, tell me to who, and I'll go and buy it off him, because he won't need it for the next few days, and I really need it. Turns out the American electrical system was different to the ones on the British one. So when we took it off, he was like, oh no, I've got one of them. Brilliant. It was like a Motorola sort of, he put the pulley on it, did something. He borrowed us some tools. We're under the car. We get it to fit. It's on. Happy days. So it fires up, we're getting the full like 14 volts. It's like, wow, we've got electricity coming out of everywhere now, we're over the moon. Put all the lights on. We're still very concerned about the car because it's got such a journey to do. And although we changed every hose and everything on the cooling system, apart from the radiator cap, which was where it was weeping from. We tried getting some sort of rubber tape to try and seal it, but it just wasn't having it. But we thought, look, well, every time we stop, we'll just top it up, and easier said than done. We head up to Darien, Connecticut for the start. We decided, look, we're going to leave about midday. People have left at midnight, 1 a.m. We're going to leave at midday. So we pull up to the sort of the famous dumpster, and there's a Mercedes there that's decided to leave at midday as well. And as it accelerates off, it leaves a huge trail of rust, like proper crunchy rust. And I'm like, wow, we are really in America now, right? This is the real deal. So we leave at 12:06, knowing there's a car about 6 minutes ahead of us, but there's lots of routes. They could be taking the southern, the northern. We're doing the southern route. We just thought the Jag will not do the northern route. it might not even do the southern route, but with the altitude, we were like, we'll do the southern route. We do a good time through there. You know, we're pushing on. We can cruise at about 90 mile an hour, but we've realized that with 3 of us in the car and all our suitcases, the suspension is very overloaded. It's quite a spongy sort of car to start with. And every time we hit a hump, we have this in the back, and it's just tire smoke from the arches, and we're like, oh my God. So every time we'd come to these humps, we'd have to slam on the brakes to throw the weight of the Jag forward to compensate for this hump. And it seemed to work. The tires did end up coming into more of a triangle shape when I got them changed in LA. I think, you know, if we hadn't been doing that sort of brake pump thing, we would have blown both tires probably in Pennsylvania. Coming across, topping everything up, all goes sort of well. We passed a lot of police cars, a lot sort of paced us for a little bit. And I think it was like, what is this car? But I can't be bothered to deal with it. Just let them go. And this was in our mind going, there's something into this sort of foreign sort of guys. So we make it across to LA. We do a time of 38 hours, 11 minutes, which is the fastest right-hand drive car, which we were very happy about. Everyone thinks we must have changed the engine in the car, so we sort of pop the hood open on the Jag. The hood liner just sort of all falls off, but it is just an original block on the car. Absolutely over the moon with it. Absolute great experience. Because everyone was aware that I just lost my other car and it was currently in police custody, we'd been awarded the last but not lost trophy. And the history behind that, the Triple T Ford Transit van that had come over had done it in, I think it was 65 hours or so, but they weren't lost. So they got there, they may have been last, but they did not get lost. So we were awarded it, I think, for different reasons, more because we had lost the previous car, but still managed to attend the C2C Express. So I was awarded that by Ed and the guys, and Peter Hitchens, the son of the guy who did the Triple T, had made this award. And it's one of my most treasured possessions because it's a direct link back to British cannonball history. And it's this amazing award that we'd won for the Jag. So I think we came 5th overall. So we weren't last. And then the next day I proposed to my girlfriend, and it was a good trip. So we were on a real big high. I've proposed to my now wife in Malibu. And I land, holiday blues, we're back home, and about a week or so after I land, a huge brown envelope appears in the post, and the first page is I've got 6 charges at the Crown Court, and that I must attend court the day before Christmas Eve. So reality hit pretty hard. So yeah, that was the fun times had come to an end.
Between cannonballs and rallies and car treks, I've been on well over 100 road trips, but one of the things that I always see is that nobody else is terribly prepared. And this is not just a jab at Freddie, but generally people don't bring the tools, the supplies, and the things they need to make it all the way to the destination of their road trip. And so I decided, after building kind of the kit that I take between cars for the long drives I go in unreliable vehicles, as the ultimate road trip survival kit. And you'll find a link in the description below to an Amazon shopping cart of the things that I think you need in order to get there, and get there without a tow bill attached to it. So check it out now, buy what you think you want, let me know in the comments what I left out, and we'll try to keep refining it so we can build the ultimate road trip survival box.